Welcome back to NBC Update channel. Today we will learn about the issue of the DiMera family's harrowing ordeal in the depths of their ancestral mansion. The upcoming week on Days of Our Lives, spanning December 8th to 12th, promises to deliver a gripping narrative that transcends the typical soap opera kidnapping plot. This isn't merely about captivity, it's an enforced family reunion in the most nightmarish setting imaginable, where the powerful DiMera clan finds themselves stripped of their influence and confined within the very walls that have witnessed generations of their secrets. The twisted irony of DiMera imprisonment. The location of this imprisonment carries a weight that cannot be understated. For decades, the hidden chambers beneath the DiMera mansion have served as instruments of power and control. Stefano DiMera, the patriarch whose shadow still looms over Salem, used these underground passages to orchestrate countless schemes. Andre DiMera weaponized these secret spaces for his own twisted purposes. Even EJ himself has leveraged the mansion's hidden architecture to maintain dominance over his enemies. The tunnels and crypts were designed as tools of intimidation, places where the DiMera family demonstrated their superiority by trapping others in darkness. Now, in a cruel reversal of fortune, these predators have become prey. The very architecture that symbolized their power has transformed into their prison. The secret room that once held their victims now holds them, creating a poetic justice that viewers have anticipated for years. This role reversal forces the family to confront the physical manifestation of their legacy, a legacy built on manipulation, imprisonment, and psychological warfare. The cold stone walls that witnessed countless acts of DiMera cruelty now witness their vulnerability. The psychological impact of this setting amplifies every interaction. These aren't sterile prison cells or anonymous warehouses. This is home territory turned hostile, familiar ground that has betrayed them. Every shadow holds memories of past victories and defeats. The air itself seems to mock their predicament, thick with decades of DiMera history and the weight of their collective sins. The hostage roster: 5 prisoners, 5 perspectives. Theo Carver stands apart from the others, not merely because of his technical expertise, but because he represents something the DiMeras rarely encounter: genuine goodness. Tyler Joseph Andrews brings depth to a character who exists in the DiMera orbit without being corrupted by it. Theo's autism spectrum condition gives him a unique perspective on problem-solving, allowing him to see patterns and solutions that escape his more emotionally reactive companions. His presence raises uncomfortable questions. Was he targeted specifically for his technological capabilities? Does the kidnapper recognize that Theo's brilliant mind could either facilitate escape or serve some larger purpose in their scheme? While his captors may underestimate him, Theo possesses abilities that could prove crucial. His experience with computer systems and electronic security makes him the most valuable asset in a technologically secured prison. As panic and paranoia consume the others, Theo's methodical approach to problems could be their salvation. He won't waste energy on blame or recrimination. He'll be mentally mapping the room, analyzing every electrical outlet, every ventilation grate, every potential weakness in their prison's infrastructure. Kristen DiMera embodies volatility personified. Stacey Haydock's portrayal has always captured a woman perpetually on the edge of combustion, and captivity will push her past every breaking point. Her history of imprisonment from her time in Statesville to various other confinements left psychological scars that this situation will viciously reopen. Kristen doesn't do helplessness well. Her entire identity is built on control and manipulation. Being stripped of both will send her spiraling through emotional extremes at dizzying speed. Her maternal instincts regarding Rachel are another volatile element to an already explosive situation. If Kristen believes her daughter faces danger, particularly with the disturbing news about Sophia Coy's manipulation at Bayview, her desperation will know no bounds. She views every second in captivity as another moment Rachel remains vulnerable. This could make Kristen the most dangerous person in that room, willing to sacrifice anyone, including family members, if it means protecting her child. Her survival instincts, honed through years of scheming and near-death experiences, will activate with terrifying intensity. Tony DiMera brings decades of survival experience to this nightmare scenario. Val Penklis has portrayed a man who has endured everything from deserted island imprisonment to being held captive by family enemies. Tony's Welch Mersey's world weariness and philosophical acceptance of life's cruelties will serve as both a coping mechanism and a stabilizing force. He survived worse, and he knows it. This knowledge gives him a psychological advantage over his more hot-headed relatives. His role as the family's sardonic commentator will be crucial for maintaining whatever fragile sanity exists in that confined space. Tony understands that panic kills faster than any kidnapper. His dry wit and dark humor aren't deflection, sheer survival tools, ways to release tension before it explodes into violence. When EJ and Chad inevitably clash over leadership and strategy, Tony will be the diplomatic buffer preventing fratricide. He's lived through enough family conflicts to recognize the signs of impending implosion, and he'll work tirelessly to prevent it. Chad DiMera carries the burden of being the family's moral compass, a responsibility that weighs heavily in the best of times and becomes crushing during crisis. Billy Flynn portrays a man constantly torn between his DiMera heritage and his desire to be better than that legacy. This kidnapping will feel like a personal failure to Chad. He's tried to legitimize the family business, to steer the DiMera name toward respectability, and now they're literally caged like animals in their ancestral home. His protective instincts toward Theo will override his own fear. Chad has always felt a kinship with Theo that transcends their complicated family connections. He'll position himself as Theo's guardian, ensuring the younger man isn't scapegoated or sacrificed in any desperate escape attempts. Physically, Chad represents brute strength combined with military tactical thinking, a dangerous combination when properly motivated. Unlike EJ's calculated ruthlessness, Chad's potential for violence springs from a place of protection rather than dominance. EJ DiMera enters this nightmare scenario already compromised. Dan Furigal's character doesn't just face kidnapping, faces humiliation, possibly the worst fate imaginable for someone of EJ's towering pride. Being drugged and manipulated by Cat Green represents a catastrophic failure of the vigilance that EJ prides himself on maintaining. When he regains consciousness in the crypt, likely disoriented and physically vulnerable, his psychological state will be fractured. This is when EJ becomes most dangerous. A humiliated DiMera with wounded pride is capable of anything. His immediate instinct will be to reassert dominance, to prove he's still the most formidable person in any room, even one that serves as his prison. This will create immediate conflict with Chad's more collaborative approach and Kristen's maternal hysteria. EJ doesn't collaborate commands. Being forced into a situation where his usual tools of power, money, and intimidation are useless will require adaptation. He may not be psychologically capable of achieving quickly enough. The skeletal mystery, Death's silent testimony. The discovery of mysterious bones within their prison adds a layer of gothic horror to an already nightmarish situation. In the world of Days of Our Lives, where death is rarely permanent and bodies often disappear only to resurface, skeletal remains carry profound narrative weight. These aren't random props designed to establish atmosphere, they're evidence of something darker lurking in the DiMera family's past, or a warning about their potential future. Several possibilities present themselves, each more chilling than the last. The bones could belong to a victim of Stefano's many schemes, someone who disappeared decades ago, and whose fate was never resolved. The DiMera patriarch's enemies numbered in the hundreds, his victims in the dozens. Finding physical evidence of one of those forgotten tragedies would force the family to confront the real cost of their legacy. It transforms abstract knowledge of past sins into tangible, undeniable proof. Alternatively, the kidnapper might have staged this macabre display specifically to break them psychologically. The message would be clear and terrifying: you are not the first. And these bones show what happens to those who don't escape. This psychological warfare leverages the DiMera's worst furnace, death itself. But dying unmourned and forgotten in the darkness they once controlled. The presence of these remains will fracture whatever unity the group manages to establish. Some will see them as motivation to escape at any cost. Others will spiral into despair, seeing their own inevitable fate reflected in those bleached bones. The discovery forces existential questions. How many people suffered in this space? How many cried for help with no answer? How many DiMera secrets literally died here? The blueprint for survival, strategy, and sacrifice. Rescue from external sources cannot be counted upon. Rafa Hernandez, despite his detective skills and dedication, finds himself spread thin across multiple investigations. The situation with Cat Green and the complications involving Javi divide his attention precisely when the DiMeras need focused investigation most. The family's salvation must come from within, requiring cooperation from people who typically view each other as competitors or obstacles. The first critical step involves establishing a temporary truce, a suspension of the power struggles that typically define DiMera interactions. Tony, drawing on his experience as family mediator, must convince EJ and Chad that their combined wealth, political connections, and business acumen mean absolutely nothing in their current situation. The corporate boardroom tactics that serve them well in Salem's business world have no application in a locked crypt. Survival requires pooling their diverse skills into a coherent strategy. EJ brings ruthless strategic thinking unencumbered by moral constraints. His mind works on multiple levels simultaneously, always calculating angles and advantages. Chad contributes physical capability and tactical military training, his body honed through years of staying fit and his mind shaped by experiences that required quick physical responses. Kristen offers decades of deception expertise, can lie convincingly even under extreme pressure, making her invaluable if the kidnapper makes contact or sends guards to check on them. Theo provides the technical expertise that none of the others possess, his understanding of modern security systems and electronics potentially being the key that unlocks their prison. A classic DiMera deception strategy will likely form the core of their escape attempt. These are people raised on manipulation and misdirection. Even in extremis, those instincts will guide them. Staging a medical emergency represents their best chance at forcing the kidnapper's hand. Imagine Kristen's theatrical skills deployed to convince an unseen observer that EJ is experiencing cardiac arrest or that Theo faces a diabetic crisis requiring immediate intervention. The performance must be convincing enough to overcome the kidnapper's natural suspicion while creating an opening for violent action. The execution of this plan requires precise timing and coordination. When the door opens, Chad and EJ must be positioned for immediate overwhelming force. These are two physically powerful men driven by desperation and fury. Any guard or kidnapper entering that room will face a controlled explosion of violence. Meanwhile, Theo works against the clock, using those precious seconds of distraction to access whatever electronic systems control their prison. A hairpin from Kristen, wire stripped from the walls, any conductive material becomes a potential tool in the hands of someone who understands circuits and systems. The actual breakout will be chaotic and brutal. EJ's rage over his humiliation by Cat Green will seek an outlet, making him want to stay and punish their captor personally. Chad's protective instincts will prioritize getting Theo and others to safety first, creating immediate conflict about priorities. This disagreement could cost them everything if not resolved quickly. Tony must again intervene, forcing a compromise, disable the threat sufficiently to ensure safe escape, then return with reinforcements for revenge. The lingering aftermath, bonds forged in darkness. Emerging from this shared trauma will fundamentally alter the DiMera family dynamics for months, possibly years. These are people accustomed to fighting each other for power, position, and prestige. The CEO position at DiMera Enterprises typically sparks more infighting than any external threat. But surviving a genuine death sentence together creates connections that transcend normal family loyalty. For a brief period, viewers might witness something rarely seen, a truly united DiMera front, with all members aligned toward common goals. This unity, however, will be temporary. The DiMera nature doesn't permit extended cooperation without competition creeping back in. But the memory of their time in that crypt will linger, creating new dynamics and unexpected alliances. Chad and EJ might discover mutual respect born from relying on each other's strengths. Kristen might see Tony as more than just another family member, but as someone whose wisdom saved them all. Theo's role in their escape will earn him unprecedented respect and potentially a permanent place in the family's inner circle. The paramount question driving the next phase of storyline remains unanswered: who orchestrated this imprisonment? The suspect list spans decades of DiMera history. Could this be the mysterious individual sending threatening letters to Stephanie, finally escalating from psychological warfare to physical action? Perhaps a figure from Stefano's past, someone who suffered at the patriarch's hands and now seeks generational revenge. Clyde Weston's criminal network and vendetta against the DiMera family makes him a strong candidate. Or might this be an entirely new antagonist, someone we haven't yet met, who has been planning this move with meticulous precision? Regardless of identity, the perpetrator has awakened something terrible. They've taken 5 people, stripped them of their power, and reminded them of their mortality. They've also, perhaps unwittingly, forged those 5 people into a unified weapon pointed directly at whoever is responsible. EJ will pursue revenge with the single-minded intensity of someone whose pride demands blood payment. Kristen will hunt whoever threatened her access to Rachel with maternal fury that knows no legal or moral boundaries. Chad will seek justice through whatever means necessary, his moral flexibility expanded by the trauma of captivity. The DiMera family crypt has always been cold, a place where temperature and emotion are kept frozen. But the 5 people locked within that stone prison are generating the fire of survival instinct, the flames of family loyalty, and the inferno of promised vengeance. When they emerge, Salem will burn with the intensity of DiMera rage unleashed. The kidnapper may have thought they were imprisoning their enemies. Instead, they've created something far more dangerous, a unified DiMera dynasty with a singular purpose and nothing left to lose.